Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be doing yet another early mock draft for fantasy football in 2021. Now, the first mock draft I did, it was just me talking about the first two rounds of the draft, and if I'm being honest with you, my opinions have really changed from 2 weeks ago when I ended up making that video. So now I'm going to do a mock draft against the computer. Now, how accurate is this going to be? Obviously, compared to your draft in August, not super accurate, but at the end of the day, it is very important to kind of do these mocks as the months go on to understand my opinion shifting as the offseason goes on, as well as kind of how the computer at sleeper.app, where I'm doing these mock drafts, kind of shift the ADP to see maybe guys move up. Obviously, once the NFL draft happens, the rookies, depending on who gets drafted where, typically these running backs do end up going earlier. A guy like Travis Etienne from Clemson, if he ends up being a good running back in obviously the correct landing spot. Now, obviously, we know he's a good running back, but if he lands on, say, the Steelers, this guy could be a second round pick. A guy like Mr. Najee Harris out of Alabama as well could be a guy that is a second or third round pick depending on the landing spot. We're not going to go super in depth with the rookies, obviously, because the draft hasn't even happened yet, and there's going to be no rookies in this draft, obviously, until Sleeper ends up adding them. Now, in this draft, we're just going to hop right in the middle here at the sixth spot of this 12-team mock draft. I'm going to be doing mock drafts all off season long, and I do multiple every single day in August. So if you guys want to make sure you get that edge on your league, you want to win your 2021 league. Maybe you didn't see my channel, maybe you didn't win your 2020 Fantasy Football Championship, or maybe you were watching and you still didn't end up winning this year. You're going to do even better. Follow along throughout the whole offseason. I'm going to give you guys the keys to the city of your fantasy football draft so that you guys can go ahead and eat that W and win at the end of the year. Now, the roster settings in this league is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, tight end, 2 flexes, kicker, defense, and a couple of bench spots. Now, obviously, not everyone plays in 2 flex leagues, but if you don't play in a 2 flex league, that other flex would just be on your bench, so it's not really too big of a deal in my opinion. So let's get right into it. Again, we are at the 6th pick of this draft, so I'm going to go ahead here and begin our draft. Again, this is a 12-team PPR league. If you guys want something different, maybe you want to see a standard draft, maybe you want to see something a little different, let me know down below in the comments. I'm going to be doing tons of dynasty drafts as well in a couple, maybe even some far videos from now, pretty close to now. So let's get into it. First pick of the draft was Saquon Barkley, followed by Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, and Christian McCaffrey. Now, this is a very, very typical start to the draft. Now, obviously, seeing Saquon Barkley go at the 101 may seem unlikely right now, but since the guy is such a freak, I understand he tore his ACL, there's going to be people and the truthers of Saquon Barkley that elevate him up to that spot. Would I pick Saquon Barkley at the 101 coming off of that injury? In my opinion, fuck no. I would never want to draft a guy coming off the ACL in the first pick. I'd probably take Saquon in the first round, no doubt about it. But at the 101, I'd rather lean with safety like Alvin Kamara or Dalvin Cook. Alvin Kamara was the second pick. Now, seems like Drew Brees is going to retire, so I don't know if you want to be drafting Alvin Kamara, if I'm being honest with you, depending on who the quarterback is. If it's Jameis Winston, I like it. If it's Taysom Hill, I am very, very scared, because if you look at the splits, when Brees is gone versus when Brees is in, it looks much better when Drew Brees was under center for the Saints, at least in Alvin Kamara's book. Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey's going to go much higher than that, and I think Zeke is really going to fall out of favor early on in drafts, because if I'm being honest with you, who really knows how the team is going to look next year? Will Dak come back? I mean, we can only assume so, but again, we really never know. So 5 running backs go in the first 5 picks of this draft, and we are up to bat right now. Running back, to me, it's really a no-brainer pick of going Derrick Henry, but I honestly do not feel like in any draft you are in, Derrick Henry would fall this far. If I'm being honest with you, the guy's coming off a 2,000-yard season. It just does not seem right in my eyes that Ezekiel Elliott would go ahead of him, so I am going to go wide receiver. Typically, running backs go very heavy in the first round due to the kind of scarcity at the position, but this year we may see a lot of running backs that you can actually find value in later in the draft because of how deep the running back position was. Guys like James Robinson really started torching it up this season. That was a guy you picked up off the waiver wire. There's other players as well, Gaskin. There's all these guys that you can find later in your draft. I think it'll be good, but obviously James Robinson, he's probably going to end up being like a first or second round pick when all things are said and done. Again, the ADP on here is verklempt. It's fucked up. You're not going to end up obviously getting the most accurate draft, but hey, it is what it is as of right now. Maybe the next time I do this, there will be some people with me that I find off of Twitter or something. So let me know if you guys would be interested in doing some live mock drafts with me. I'd love to do that. So first wide receiver off the board here at the 106. We are going to be leaning for Davante Adams. Now, I know I don't have Davante Adams ranked as the 101 at the wide receiver position for this season. I think I made the wide receiver video and I had Stephon Diggs at the 101, but that's just because I'm trying to be a little bit different. Obviously, the same wide receiver one typically doesn't finish at the end of the season. The next season, after having the wide receiver one season the season before. So Adams was looked at as like the wide receiver 3, becomes the wide receiver 1. Michael Thomas was the wide receiver 1 in most people's books. He doesn't end up finishing anywhere near there. I'm going to lean Davante Adams here at the 101, but again, I like a lot of these wide receivers, but I'm heavily looking away from a guy like Michael Thomas here at the 107. If I'm being completely honest with you, I just do not understand the safety of drafting Michael Thomas at this point in the season. We saw him not catch a single ball up against Tampa Bay Tom Brady last week in that matchup. Without Drew Brees, who knows how it's going to look for Michael Thomas. So he's kind of going to be a guy that I'm fading away until we really know about how the quarterback position is going to look in New Orleans. After Michael Thomas was Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Nick Chubb, Julio Jones, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, and Joe Mixon. Pat Mahomes going at the 112. That is going to be something that's going to happen in some drafts. There's always going to be the guy who reaches up, or gal, that wants to go ahead and select a quarterback in the first round. To me, that is not the philosophy to win. If you drafted Patrick Mahomes in the first round or Lamar Jackson in the first round, like some people were doing, considering Lamar was considered the 101, at least at the quarterback position, your team probably fucking crashed and burned. Frankly, you want to win by drafting a quarterback later. A guy like Josh Allen won you your league. A guy like Aaron Rodgers won you your league. A guy like Tom Brady won you your league. A guy like Justin Herbert, Ryan Tannehill win you your league. Not one of these ass hats that gets drafted early on. Now, obviously, you can do whatever you want in your draft, and I will not critique you because there's going to be teams that draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round and take Tyreek Hill in the second round and do a 619 Rey Mysterio on the rest of the league and end up winning, but then there's going to be teams like that ends up dead in the dirt because the quarterback just does not provide up to that expectations. Now, based upon what I've seen, there's no way in fuck Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a second round pick. That guy just, frankly, he'll be a fine running back for fantasy football, not worthy of a second round pick. Mike Evans, not worthy of a second round pick in my opinion. Still a good wide receiver, but just not one of those 1, 2. He was number 6 off the board. To me, that just doesn't make too much sense. Joe Mixon, he's going to be a guy that I'm ready to buy into in the 3rd or 4th round. But in the 2nd round, I am staying clear away from Joe Mixon. The quarterback issue, obviously, with Joe Burrow coming back off of an ACL, he should be fine. But the offensive line is scary. The play calling is scary, not always favoring Joe Mixon. Mixon was banged up all year, if I'm being honest with you. I'm kind of really staying away from Joe Mixon next year, even though he's my boy. I love Joe Mixon, but I just don't know if it's ever going to turn around for him in Cincinnati. So right here, to me, there's a no-brainer pick, and that would be tight end Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is a guy that's going to get picked in the top 8 of your draft, top 12 of your draft. He's not going to be here. So for that reason alone, I am not going to go ahead and select him at this pick. But do not be surprised if Kelce is like a top 5 pick in your league, because this guy is just the upper echelon at the tight end position, at a position that is so scarce. Because besides Kelce, you thought Kittle would be good, right? Kittle got hurt. You thought Ertz would have a good year. Played like shit. I didn't think Ertz would have a good year. But Andrews, I thought, would have a good year. Didn't really play all that good. Waller is like the 3rd or 2nd best guy. I mean, it's just scarce at that position. So if you want to go ahead and grab a tight end early, I would not go ahead and judge you for that. So we're going to go running back here. The running back's still available. Actually, we could go wide receiver as well, but the wide receiver core is going to be very, very deep this season. That running back still available. Miles Sanders is going to be a guy I'm looking to fade, if I'm being honest with you, due to not understanding the coaching situation in there thus far. It seemed like the Bills offensive coordinator was going to end up going there. Now it seems like the ball wants to just stay in Buffalo for another year. Like, this Eagles job is such a fucking dumpster fire. He doesn't even want to go there. But we never know. Austin Eckler, good season, injury riddled. Kenyon Drake, complete bust. Todd Gurley, bust. Le'Veon Bell bust. All these guys don't seem even worthy of this pick besides Eckler and Jonathan Taylor. But I'm going to go ahead and reach deep down in the depths and select Jonathan Taylor. He's going to be a second-round pick, in my opinion, come the actual time that we are drafting. Maybe even a first-round pick because of the skill he has at the running back position. He grabbed the Indianapolis Colts backfield by its nuts and gave them a good old Thanos snap, and their nuts were gone. I like Jonathan Taylor here a whole lot. Wouldn't even be surprised if he was a first-round pick when all things are said and done in August. Again, if you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. After Jonathan Taylor, we see Chris Godwin, followed by Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, Lamar Jackson, George Kittle, Todd Gurley, Chris Carson, and Adam Thielen. Again, the ADP is going to be shitty on here right now. It will be fixed closer to when we're actually drafting after the NFL draft. It gets a lot better. Lamar's not going to be a third-round pick. Drake's going to be nowhere near the second round. Sanders, nowhere near the second round, in my opinion. Gurley, nowhere near there as well. But again, this is the ADP we're dealing with here. So I'm just going to be talking about the players mainly, not really too much about the order that these guys are getting picked, because I just want to discuss the players as a whole and not really... You guys can obviously understand that the ADP is going to be fucked up because I'm not just going in here and picking every single player. So Gurley is a guy I'm completely fading in 2021. His job got stolen in Atlanta. No, Dikembe, no. Would I be looking his way? Adam Thielen seems like a nice asset to add to your team this season. But again, I would prefer Justin Jefferson over him. Kenyon Drake, no clue where he's going to go. Lamar Jackson, do not fall into the trap of drafting a quarterback in the first, second, or third round. In my opinion, unless Patrick Mahomes was sitting here at the 3-6, then I would probably think about it. But, again, the guy that you think is going to be the quarterback one typically never even finishes that high. So now we are back up on the board. A typical rule of mine is to try to exit the third round of your draft with 2 running backs and wide receiver. Now, that's just a rule of thumb. If things here don't show up the right way, everyone's drafting running backs, and the receiver value right here is magnifique. Then you take a wide receiver. You just avoid what I said. But then there's going to be situations where, hey, the running back value is nice here. You want to go ahead and snag 2 running backs early. In my opinion, again, there's no perfect recipe to success in fantasy football. You could literally have drafted Mahomes in the first round, a kicker in the second round, and somehow have won your league, because the fantasy season isn't won in the draft. That's what most people don't understand. You're watching this content now, so you probably know that. But people in August, they're watching all these videos. Boom, their team's ready. They fire it up, and I get comments 4 months later. Hey, Nick, you asshole. I drafted XXXXX Tentacion or something. I drafted all these guys, and they didn't do good. Well, maybe because you need to move the guys on the waiver wire if these guys don't pan out. Not everyone's going to pan out that I'm on my knees for calling for having a great season. So you got to make sure you're heavy on the waiver wire, which helps you secure these Ws. So next pick to me is a no-brainer as well. I like David Montgomery. I think he will end up being a third-round pick, though he could obviously have moved up to the second round based upon his performance deep down the season. So I'm going to go with Montgomery. Obviously, the situation over there in the Bears is kind of fucked up. We have no idea if it's going to be Montgomery. Not that's not going to be Montgomery, but we don't know if it's going to be Trubisky. We don't know if it's going to be Nagy. Now, another pick here would be James Robinson, but I feel as though the Jags are not going to move anyone near here, so I don't think I would even touch David Montgomery right here in the third round, because I feel as though he would have already been taken, if I'm being honest with you. I think there's more likely that David Montgomery is still here at this point in the draft, so that's who we are going to end up selecting. Another guy I was really much in favor of in the fantasy offseason that didn't pan out early. I was getting all these hate comments, then he panned out later. But obviously, you want a guy to play all fucking season consistently, because a lot of people, when Dave Montgomery blew up, their season was already capiche, it was already gone. Allen Robinson, Russell Wilson, Le'Veon Bell, Amari Cooper, Kenny Golladay, DK Metcalf, James Robinson, Calvin Ridley, David Johnson, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, and DJ Moore come off the board after that. Again, the ADP definitely fucked up. We're not going to be seeing Le'Veon Bell anywhere near the third round. Not going to be seeing a guy like James Conner or David Johnson anywhere near the fourth pick or the fourth round of the draft. So we're going to go ahead here and hop back on the wide receiver train. I am all aboard here, the wide receivers, because I feel like a lot of these running backs that are available, guy like Dobbins, Guy like Swift, guy like Ronald Jones, guy like Antonio Gibson, just frankly not going to be available potentially here at this spot. So we're going to go back on the wide receiver train. Stephon Diggs, also a guy who I believe would have been taken by this point. Same thing goes for A.J. Brown. Tyler Lockett is going to be a guy that I'm completely fading in 2021. If you click on him right here, if you click on him as if you're fucking controlling the screen, not me, you can see that his PPR points, they are just all over the place, right? 17, 19, 37. This guy's fucking world beater. Next week, 5, 8, then, right? You're like, oh, fuck, I can't start him. He's playing Arizona. You sit him, 53 points, and you're like, oh, goddamn, maybe he figured it out. Then he drops 7, 8, 11, 21, 5, 11, 10, 7, 7. What's that going to do for you? Absolutely fucking nothing. He finishes as a top 8 wide receiver, when in reality, he didn't do anything. He did do game. He did do stuff, right? But he didn't finish the season strong at all. He's tipsy-turvy. I don't know. Stephon Diggs is going to be like a top 2-round pick. No way he's available here. The only guy I could see really being available here is a guy like Terry McLaurin. Keenan Allen's always a guy that gets slept on, but I think this year maybe he moves up even further. But again, you really never know until we're looking at the ADP in August. So I'm going to go ahead and select Keenan Allen here. Nick, that's a fucking cop-out pick. He wouldn't be available here. Then I would have went Terry McLaurin because I think the Washington football team is really building something strong there with Ron Rivera. Terry McLaurin was very consistent this season, even with Heineke. Heineke was probably the best quarterback that stepped foot on that field. Heineke. Alex Smith. Who else? Dwayne Trashcan Haskins. Strip Club Dwayne. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen here, but again, if he wasn't available, would have went with my main man, scary Terry McLaurin. A.J. Brown's also going to be a much higher pick. It's very interesting to see where these wide receivers end up falling, because if some of these wide receivers from the NFL draft land in the correct spot, Devonta Smith may end up being a very high draft pick. But again, with rookie wide receivers, it's very hard to judge when to draft them because they typically don't pan out instantly. But then you might think Justin Jefferson did. I understand. There's going to be those guys that blow up. So you can obviously have to draft them, but they get drafted a lot further back in fantasy drafts compared to the running backs due to the kind of assumption that takes a bunch of games for them to actually start firing up. Justin Jefferson, that is exactly what happened to him. Justin, my friend Justin Jefferson. If we look at this motherfucker, 4, 7, 30, 14, right? He literally just took him 2 games. Then he was on fire. Some guys takes him like 6 games. Justin Jefferson would be the pick here as well, but I don't think he's going to be a 5th-round pick this year. Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Mark Andrews, Stephon Diggs, Zach Ertz, Robert Woods, A.J. Brown, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Dakota Prescott. So we're going to go ahead here and pause the draft and then kind of talk about my thought process throughout this pick. I'm not sure if we're even going to end up going all the way through 14 rounds, because if I'm being honest with you, it's kind of, with the ADP, it's pretty fucked up. I'm going to try a different website next week. We'll see if anything is a bit different on there. I actually saw Fantasy Football Advice, Nick Zylak, very nice guy. I interviewed him on my YouTube channel last year. I like that guy. He's a very, very nice guy. I talked to him a couple of times. Very nice. He actually did it on, I think it was Fantasy Football Calculator, so maybe we can try that out next time. Maybe that's just a little more accurate, or maybe I can get some people in here to help me out. Now, tight end, if Waller's available in the 5th round, you smack that pick, but I honestly don't think he will be, because of the tight end narrative that we are in right now. So I'd probably just go ahead and fade away from him at this pick. Not that I actually would, because I would pick him, but I don't think he'd be available here. 5th round, honestly, right here, I would say around the 7th, 8th, and 9th round is where my quarterback spot is, where I kind of try to look for one of those guys if I'm not in the full just fucking wait mode. Because in a lot of drafts, I'm in full on, wait till round 13, snag a guy like Stafford, maybe if he's on a good team, snag a guy like Tom Brady. Snag a guy like, obviously Herbert won't be here, but snag one of these guys later in the draft. We don't really know who's going to be drafted super late next year as of right now. You just snag one of those guys and just hope they pan out, or draft 2 of them. If you drafted like Tom Brady and Matt Ryan, you probably would have felt very confident. My dad did that in a league last year, ended up eating the W and winning that league off of my advice. That is on YouTube for free. No free ads, but make sure you hit that subscribe button, because it's a free ad, because it's faux me. So now we are up on the board. We'll probably do like 2-3 more rounds here and then call it a quits. So at the wide receiver position, it's looking bleak. Looking real bleak. A guy like T. Higgins might get picked here, and that might be a guy I would look at. Tyler Boyd. I just love the fucking Bengals. When Joe Burrow was healthy, sheesh, it was looking good. DJ Chark has, man. a bad season out of Chark after an excellent season, but we could really see the emergence of baby Chark, baby Chark this season if Lawrence gets drafted there. Now, do you want to buy in on Urban Meyer's Jacksonville Jaguars? I don't know, but I would not be surprised if Chark gets elevated to the fucking moon when they draft Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, it'd be a smash pick on Lawrence if he was here, but he's not going to be. At wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb could be a pick here, but again, not super sold on that. Deontay Johnson, the issue again with quarterback, but I'm going to select him here. I think he's going to be around a 5th, 6th round pick. I fucking love Deontay Johnson. This year, I loved him in 2020. I'm going to love him next year as well. But obviously, if Big Ben is gone, then you scare away. Now there's kickers being drafted here. Now I'm figuring it out. The ADP here is completely skewed by the fact that people are doing dynasty drafts and drafting kickers earlier. Why are they drafting kickers earlier? Because they use kickers in place of those rookie picks. Confusing if you don't play dynasty. But if you play Dynasty, you probably understand me. After Deontay Johnson, Darren Waller, Terry McLaurin, Aaron Rodgers, it's starting to get a bit fucked up here, so we're probably just going to make 1 or 2 more picks. I want to look back in the running back room here. If anyone named Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Swift, Ronald Jones, Antonio Gibson, any of these guys make it here, they're a smash pick. The guy who I think has the highest chance of actually making it back this far is probably Ronald Jones. Not the best of the group, or maybe Antonio Gibson, so we're going to select him here. I liked Gibson a decent amount. I thought it would be taking a while for him to take over. He took over with fucking strength. I think he's going to be much more consistent going into next year. After Raheem, Devin Singletary, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, Devontae Parker, AJ Green, Kareem Hunt, Drew Brees, T.Y. Hilton. Rest in peace to Drew Brees. Hopefully he goes and retires, because after that performance, I don't want to see this man grace the field again. DeAndre Swift. So now we're going to make our final pick here, because again, I don't want to go ahead and go through this anymore at this point, because it's just fucked up completely. I thought this would be much better. It just does not seem to be. So we're going to go running back, receiver, quarterback. Normally I wait on quarterback, so we are going to go running back. Now, right here, none of these guys are going to be available, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think a guy that I'm going to be very high on is going to be Myles Gaskin. If the Dolphins do not draft anyone, I think Gaskin could legitimately be a running back 1 based upon how the Dolphins use a running back. I'm a Dolphins fan. Dan Marino's on the wall. I've got a fucking Dolphins blanket on me right now because it's cold as a motherfucker in New Jersey. So I love the Dolphins, but that doesn't influence any of my thoughts on the players, because if I'm being honest with you, I'll shoot it straight. I didn't like Devontae Parker going into this year. Didn't really draft him. Didn't have that great of a year. I talk it how it is. Tua had an okay season. I don't know, maybe Deshaun Watson's here next year. That's a video that I'm very excited to make, to talk about Deshaun Watson. But man, right here, I would go with Myles Gaskin if he is alone in the backfield. So I think he will be around a 7th round pick, maybe even higher, if he's not the only man in Miami, or if he is the only man in Miami, because if they bring in like Najee Harris, it's just a completely verklempt situation. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Next time, we'll try to do a more in-depth mock draft on a different website, because I didn't want to ditch this video, because I actually think you guys could have gotten a decent amount of information just from me discussing through some of these players. I will actually pick a couple of these players here that I don't believe I talked about to talk about here. A.J. Brown going to be a much higher pick than the 5-2. Very, very good, very consistent. Even if Tennessee runs, A.J. Brown still performs. Cortland Sutton, not going to get picked that high, but is a very big bounce-back candidate, especially if they have a new quarterback not named Horsecock Drew Lock. Raheem Mostert, interesting case for him if he's the only running back on contract in San Francisco next season. Jarvis Landry, just always a safe 7th round pick. And another guy I really want to talk about, Cam Akers. This guy is a fucking beast. I talked about him all off season. Took so long, but the final stretch and in the playoffs, this guy's a beast. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. I do love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Please hit that subscribe button and let me know down below in the comment section who is your top 5 wide receivers for fantasy football in 2020. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you all. Adios. Goodbye.